And then after that, I'm going to stream this. So people that miss it can go back and watch it later. All right. All right, cool. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. So thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day to join us for this really cool Lunch and Learn. You're going to find out today that there are many different ways, many different options that you have to strengthen your leadership skills. And today, who you're going to hear from are two mentors, very strong mentors of mine, one of which who you probably know very well, John Maxwell, and the CEO of his company, Mark Cole. Mark and John have taken John's brand and really taken it really to the top level. John's book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, has been on multiple platforms. It's probably the highest sold leadership book in the world. It's in 57 different countries, or 150 different countries, 57 different languages. And so what we're going to do today is what I call experiential learning. And so we're going to hear a teaching vignette from John Maxwell himself on one of the laws, and then I'm going to follow it up with an application by his CEO, Mark Cole, sort of saying how he's applied that specific law to something in his own personal life in the marketplace. And then after we watch those two series, if you have your participant guide, we're going to walk through that, and we're going to have some open facilitated discussions. I've invited some of you to be facilitators on here because I think it's important that as you hear these things, we all tend to fall into a commonality. When we think about personal development, we want to go hear something and learn it. And a lot of times we learn it for knowledge, but we don't actually apply it. And so what we're going to do here in our Lunch and Learn is we're going to have an opportunity to work with each other and sort of debrief and figure out, what are these things? What did you learn from what you heard? And also, what can you apply from what you're hearing, what you're learning at the present moment? So I thank you guys so much. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to bring up the first law. So if you guys have your participant guide, the first law we're going to hear about is the law of lids. So I'm going to bring up John Maxwell next, and he's going to be the next voice you hear. So I encourage you guys to just listen, take notes to what he says. If you have any aha moments or something powerful he said, go ahead, write it down. And then after we watch these first two series of videos, we'll go ahead and have some open discussion on that. So let me go ahead and pull up my video of John, and we're going to get started here.
Hi, my name is John. Hi, my name is John Maxwell, and welcome to the Lunch and Learn. And today we're going to talk about my book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. This is the best-selling leadership book ever written, over 3 million copies, 57 languages, every country of the world. And when I began to write the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, I had to ask myself, first of all, what defines a law? What makes a law so important that everybody needs to know it and obey it? And we took it through a leadership law grid, which basically said it has to work well in every culture, with every gender, and every time, all the time. It has to be almost like timeless. It had to work 100 years ago, it has to work 100 years from now, and more importantly, it has to work right now. It was that grid that allowed those laws to be special and significant, that has allowed it to be continually reproduced in every culture and every country on a continual basis. Now, there's some observations that I want to make concerning these laws that we're going to teach you. And the first one is the fact that no one does all the laws well. And there are 21 of them. And trust me, I wrote the book and there are 6 of them that I'm average in myself. In fact, I was kind of frustrated. I had to put them in there because they were laws. And I thought, wow, I don't do really well with them. But it's okay. You're going to find that you don't do really well on all the laws also. That's why you bring a leadership team around you. They complement you. They complete you. They do for you what you cannot do for yourself. These laws also have consequences. In other words, simply, you obey them and they work for you, but if you disobey them, they really can hurt you. I remember one time while I was signing books, a man came up to me and he said, I disagree, John, with one of your laws. And I smiled and I said, it's okay. But I could tell immediately on the countenance of his face that it wasn't okay with me, that he disagreed with one of them. And so he kind of pressed me on it. And finally I looked at him and I said, my friend, I didn't write the laws to make you happy. I wrote the laws to help you. It's kind of like somebody saying, John, I don't agree with the law of gravity. Well, I don't care. Right? Trust me, if you go up on a 4-story building and you jump off, you're going to immediately buy into the law of gravity. You see, the laws don't really ask you to like them. They just ask you to learn them and obey them. And what's beautiful about the 21 laws of leadership is you can learn every one of these laws. In other words, you can get better. I know that because we have trained over 6 million people, again, in every country in 57 languages. So if we did it for them, guess what? At this Lunch and Learn, we can do it for you. So let's talk about law number 1, the law of the lid, which basically says how well you lead determines how well you succeed. As a young leader, as a young writer, I came to the conclusion that everything rises and falls on leadership. And that statement began to light a fire and create passion within me. The reason now at the age of 70 I'm still teaching leadership is because I believe without any doubt that everything rises and falls on leadership. In your life, in my life, education, government, business, religion, it doesn't matter. Everything rises and falls on leadership. Not some things, not most things, everything. Let me illustrate the law of the lid with my hand. If this hand represents my leadership lid, this is how well John Maxwell leads, and this hand represents my business, my team, my company. What I know about the law of the lid is that my company, my business, my team will always come under, but never go above or higher than my leadership lid. So if I'm an average leader from a 1 to a 10, I'm a 5, what that means is my company, my business, my team, it'll be a 4. It'll never go higher. Why? Because of the law of the lid. My leadership is the lid on my potential. Now, when I do Q&A at leadership conferences, somebody will raise their hand, they'll say, John, are leaders born? And whenever they ask me, are leaders born? I always laugh, say, well, of course they are. I've never met an unborn leader and don't particularly want to either. Thank you very much. You see, what they're really asking is, are there some people when they're born, they go to the front of the line because they can lead, and they have gifts, and there are others that are born, they go to the back of the line because they can't. And I just want you to know that there are people that are born with leadership gifts, but you, whether you have any leadership gifts or not, can learn to lead and influence people because leadership is influence. I'll talk about that law a little later. And your ability to learn how to influence people will determine the size of the people, the amount of people that you actually lead. Again, in my 20s, I heard Earl Nightingale say that if I spent 1 hour a day, every day, on a certain given subject in 5 years, I could become an expert on that subject. I was so passionate by that and about leadership, I said, I'm going to try this little project. I'm going to, for 5 years, spend an hour every day studying leaders, asking questions of leaders, reading leadership material. I'm just going to immerse myself in leadership, and that's exactly what I did. And as I started this leadership growth process, every day I'd say, wow, Earl Nightingale said 5 years. I wonder how long it will take. How long will it take? How long will it take? And I did that for a couple of years. But on the inside, I was developing and growing as a leader. And I was enjoying this growth process so much within me. By the end of the second year, I quit asking the question, how long will it take? And I started asking the question, how far can I go? That question, how far can I go, I still ask today. I'm 70 and I think that Nike is right. There is no finish line in the area of leadership. And at this Lunch and Learn, I'm so glad you're here because Mark Cole and myself and our facilitator, the John Maxwell team that's with you, I'm here to tell you, my friend, we're here to put you on a journey that is going to be absolutely breathtaking as you grow as a leader and therefore you expand the success of your life. That's what I want for you. And that's what Mark Cole wants for you. Again, he leads all my companies, so he has to apply all these laws to his life and to the life of the teams that we have. And he does an outstanding job with them. And as he comes to share with you, he's going to do an outstanding job with you, helping you to flesh out and apply the laws that I teach today.
Hi, I'm Mark Cole. One of the greatest privileges in my life was 6 years ago when John said, "Mark, I want you to be the CEO of my company." As John began to introduce me in that role, one of my greatest privileges, one of the greatest things he said to me and to others was, "This is the guy that relationally gets my content and gets me better than anybody else I've ever had." I loved that compliment until I realized it was a lid. You see, it was 2.5 years ago, John began working with me on me and my relational leadership. It was then that I began to realize that our organization needed, at that time, a visionary leader, a decisive leader, someone to where relational skills were used, but relational skills would not hold me back. I'll never forget the moment in Texas when John says, "Mark, you've got to determine if you want to be a leader, or if you want to be loved. You can be loved and be a leader, but you cannot allow wanting to be loved stop you from being a leader." It was then that I decided I wanted to be more directive and not allow collaboration to hold me back. So as I realized my challenge as a leader, as I realized the lid in my life, it occurred to me that you and me, we have lids in our life. We have leadership lids. John just referred, whatever your lid is, it will not only hold you back, but it'll hold your team, it'll hold your company, and therefore it'll hold your dream back. So my question to you today, in this application moment, is what is your greatest leadership lid? I want you to rate yourself from a 1 to 10. Maybe you want to get people around you to rate you after this lunch and learn. What is your leadership lid? And what is your ranking of that leadership lid? The second question I want to ask you today, I want to challenge you. What is your plan to raise your lid over the next 6 months? What will you read? Who will mentor you? Who is going to hold you accountable? Because for me, as I began to apply this concept of wanting to lead more than I wanted to be loved, I had to surround myself with people that would challenge me to take the lid off of my life. And as I have done that over the last 6 years, and specifically over the last 2 years, we have seen over 500% growth in our organization. I want that for you, and you can have it by lifting your lid. Now that you've heard John talk about the law of the lid, you've heard a little of the application I've given you. I want you to spend time with the executive director, and they will facilitate with you these questions and a discussion around what you've learned and how you're going to apply it.
Okay, so we just watched our first series of 2 videos about the law of the lid. And so if you guys have never been a part of a mastermind group before, this is probably my favorite part because this is where we really get together and sort of discuss what stood out to us. So, you know, John talks about the law of the lid. I mean, what were some of the observations? What really stuck out to you the most from a personal standpoint about the law of the lid? So let's talk about some of the concepts that he said. What's something that you think is powerful that you just heard?
This is Lori.
Hey, Lori.
Hi, Mike. Oh my goodness. What's my lid? That is something to really figure out. Wanting to be loved versus wanting to lead. Ouch.
That's interesting. So when you say that, what does that look like for you? You know, you got an amazing business that you do. You've got an amazing family. So what would you say is the scale? Where's that scale balanced?
It's pretty low. Having to, because I'm in a lot of healing right now, coming through a lot of very damaging stuff. And probably over the last year, it's been more of a wanting to be loved, not really wanting to lead, because my son was beside me in business and he disagreed with a lot of things I did, which of course he's young, he's going to disagree. But that was hard for me. Do I really want to grow my business? Do I want to lift that lid, or do I just want to make people happy?
Interesting. That's an interesting thought, and I really appreciate your transparency here and thinking about that, because a lot of times in business we don't often recognize that when we own companies, when we are even as what I call a solopreneur, we will never go higher than that lid. And I love John's analogy when he puts his hand, because if you could think about that, no one in your organization is ever going to go higher than you. And so when you think about your area of wanting to grow in leadership, and again, this is open, so this is open discussion for all of us. Where would you guys say your lid is? So Lori says wanting to be loved versus raising the lid, which is a great analogy. For some of the other folks on here, where do you think your current lid is today? Where would you say that struggle is?
Hey, Jeremy here. Sorry for some of the noise.
That's okay, Jeremy.
I would say my lid, one of the things I struggle with is I'm naturally kind of a passive person. Mm-hmm. And I'm the kind of personality type that wants what's best for the whole team. And sometimes I kind of let that get in the way of being more assertive and being in a leadership position. So I would say that's a lid that I definitely struggle with. I am learning though that if I don't end up leading, somebody else who might do a worse job tends to do it. So just one of the things I'm kind of learning currently.
That's awesome. No, that's really cool. And being assertive, it's awesome. We all have multiple different personality types, right? And so someone like Jeremy, obviously here, he cares very much about his team, and he wants to make sure that he honors his team. He doesn't want to let them down. And it almost goes along the lines of what Lori says, maybe wanting to be loved by people. Sometimes as a leader, we have to make decisions that are not going to please everybody. We have to make critical decisions. In some cases, if we don't make that decision, the path of the whole entire ship, the whole entire company can go down. And so the question is, do you want to weigh the entire ship sinking versus making a few people unhappy, but getting them to understand the reason behind why we're doing something that way? And so that's really, really, that's powerful, Jeremy, that you brought that up. So when you guys think about the lid specifically, what are some things that are keeping that lid on a tight seal? From yourself, what do you think is not allowing that lid to be removed? What are some limitations there that you can see, what we just heard, that you recognize?
For me, I would definitely say not loving and trusting myself enough to make those decisions.
Wow, that would fall in the category of self-sabotage, right? That's a really good one, Lori. Anybody else?
Oh, yes.
Anybody else? What is holding that lid down for you personally, and that has you feeling, I can't go higher?
So yeah, mine's somewhat similar in that it's questioning my ability to be a leader, because I guess I'm not what the world's definition of one would be, because I'm somewhat passive, I'm not authoritative at all, because I care about the group as a whole, kind of thing. So, but I'm currently in a place where that lid is being forced to pop up. So
That's awesome, man. And I want to echo something that Jeremy just said. He's just so powerful. You know, I'm not the world's definition of what a leader is, right? We heard John say there, he said that leadership is influence, nothing more and nothing less. And I tell this to people all the time. The person in your organization that has the most influence is the true leader. It is the true leader, because usually when things hit the fan, and there's someone that people tend to rally around, it's typically the person that has the most influence in an organization. A title of CEO, president, vice president, director does not make you a leader. That is simply a title and a position. But leadership is something that's developed over time. And you heard John sort of quip. Someone asked me, John, are there natural born leaders? And he laughs because we're all born, but it's not something that we naturally wake up and do. I can tell you from my experience, I was put in a leadership position at a very young age. I mean, when I graduated from West Point, 22 years old, I was in a combat environment with soldiers. And right then and there, was I the leader? No way in hell I was the leader. Yeah, I had the title of lieutenant and platoon leader, and I was responsible for everybody. But one of the most powerful things that I did in that experience is I sat back and I observed, and I learned from my soldiers who had way more experience than me, who understood how things worked. I learned from my non-commissioned officers who understood how to lead people to get a job done. And through that humility, through working with all of these leaders and not saying, hey, you all follow me because I'm in charge, that is one of the things that really helped to hone my leadership skills. So I definitely would challenge you guys, you know, when we as we close in this particular subject on the lid, what is one thing that you could take away from what you just heard and apply towards raising that leadership lid over the next 6 months? So what's one thing that you are going to take away from here now that you know is going to help you raise that lid over the next 6 months? It doesn't have to be any grandiose thing either. It could be something very simple. Go ahead, Jeremy.
yeah, I would just say education, learning, and be in a constant state of being a student and learning, and definitely mentorship as well.
Excellent. That's so important. Finding someone who is either at a higher level than you are or has something. If you're looking for leadership, find someone who you know has a high level of leadership skills and come under their wing. That's very powerful. Very excellent point. Go ahead, Tiffany.
Hi, everyone. I'm right there along with what Jeremy said, and I'm going to continue to surround myself with those that have like a higher level of thinking, those that are taking action, and just continue to keep myself plugged in and involved.
Excellent. Great topics. Great ways to get yourself focused. All right. And I think, Laura, you were going to add something as well.
I had to really think about that one. Making a decision about whether I'm going to an event or not. And I think I need to go. I think that would be a really good thing. Surrounding myself with people who are further ahead on the journey than I am. Always lifts me up, and yet I have a hard time getting myself there. So I think it means I need to go.
Excellent. Well, this is good. I mean, you guys all had great points. So I'd encourage you guys in your participant guide that I sent you, really write those things down and make a specific plan and be very intentional about it, because again, you're learning something here now. What's going to separate you from a closed lid on your area of leadership is what you apply and what you actually do. So all these things that you mentioned are great, but if you truly want to capitalize on that, you will go and follow through on everything that you just said here. So great topics, great work. So I want to go ahead and move on to the next law, this one was the law of the lid. The next one, we're going to be talking about the law of influence, which we've spoken a little bit about, but this one I think is very powerful, especially for those of you that have teams that you work with or people in your organization. This one is going to be one that you're really going to love and enjoy.
Now let's talk about the second law of leadership. It's the law of influence. The law of influence simply says the true measure of leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. I'll still remember maybe my greatest Christmas gift as I sat with my assistant who gave me a book many, many years ago when I was very young. And it was for Christmas, and I opened it up because I love to read. On the outside cover, it was the title, The Greatest Story Ever Told. I could hardly wait to open up the pages to see what the greatest story ever told was, and much to my surprise, when I did, the pages were blank. And I looked at her, and she said, go to the first page, and I did, and on the first page, she had written a note to me. The note read, John, your life is before you. You fill these pages with dreams of your heart. Things that you want to do, things that will allow you to be significant in life. I'll never forget, I took that book and I began the next day writing in that book, and the first thing I said is that I wanted to make a difference. You see, that book kind of helped me nail down my dream. My dream was simple. I wanted to make a difference in people's lives. And then I sat back and I asked myself, well, if I want to make a difference in people's lives, how am I going to do that? I came to the conclusion that for me, adding value to people was how I would make a difference in people's lives. Now, you have to understand, as I've grown over the years, that dream has matured. And if you ask me now, I would say I want to make a difference in leaders' lives. In fact, I want it to be said about me that I made a difference in leaders' lives, and they multiplied that difference in the lives of others, because that's who I am and that's what I want to do. But you see, I got my dream, and then I asked myself, how do I accomplish the dream? And then I came to the law of influence. I didn't have a law of influence back then because I hadn't written the book, but trust me, as soon as I realized what my dream was and how I was going to accomplish it, I asked myself the question, how many? How many people now can I make a difference in their life? In other words, how can I increase my influence? You see, what I realize, and I want you to realize today at this Lunch and Learn, is this. When I increase my influence, I realize my dream. So if your dream is to just influence 10 people, you really don't need to work too hard about that. You probably have 10, you could do that now. But if your dream is to positively affect tens of thousands of people, hundreds of thousands, millions, this law of influence is going to be really huge, because you're only going to be able to touch the lives of the people that you can influence. So how do you expand that influence? That was my question. And so I started off within myself. How is John Maxwell going to expand his influence? And I decided to do several things. One, I said I'm going to add value to others every day. And I began to practice that. Just one-on-one, I'd see somebody that I could say something to or encourage them in, and I would add value to them. And I made it a way of life. It really became who I truly am. And then I said, well, I'm also going to teach. I'm going to teach people. I'll hold conferences and seminars, and I'll share with them my leadership principles and how that they can make a difference in others' lives. And so I brought people together, and it was pretty successful. And then I remember so well sitting with my mentor one day, and I asked him why he wrote books. And he said, John, I write books so I can expand my influence beyond my own personal touch. That was the day I decided to write books. I didn't want to become an author. I wanted to expand my influence. So I said, I'm going to write books. And now today I've written almost 100 books and over 30 million copies, and that influence has expanded. I also said for myself, Maxwell, if you're really going to expand your influence, you need to exceed expectations. You need to not only meet expectations, which is what a few people do, you need to exceed them. And I have found that exceeding expectations has been a wonderful way for other people to tell other people about me. Because you see, when you get legs to your influence, that's other people telling other people they need to hear you, see you, be around you. It's because you exceed expectations. That's that extra bit of effort and that extra bit of touch that really gives the legs to the influence. So now you can see I'm doing really well personally. But then I realized to go to a whole new level of increasing my influence, I had to develop a team. I had to bring people around me that would have the same message, the same heart, that would have my DNA. And I realized if I was going to do that, this would take an extra level of commitment to me and understanding of how do you build a team. Again, that's where my friend Mark Cole comes in, who runs my companies, because he's the one who expands my influence more than anyone else because he works with my companies, my teams. And I want Mark now to come and share with you again, how do you take the law of influence and how do you apply it to yourself and your team? Because you see, I had the dream, but I also needed to have a team. So when people come to me and they say, I have a big dream, the question I have is, do you have a big team to match that big dream? Because that's truly how you extend your influence. So listen to Mark. He'll apply to you how to do that with your team.
John so effortlessly talks about the law of influence. But at the time of this recording, John now has the book, 21 Laws, in over 57 languages. In fact, we've trained leaders in every recognized nation of the world. We have John Maxwell team members, certified coaches in over 150 countries. 20 presidents, heads of nations, have written to John and said, John, will you and your team come and help us transform our country? Truly, the law of influence is at work in everything that we do. But I stand here today with an understanding with this law of influence that as a leader, I'm going to need to lead differently in this time of influence. Our dream is big. As we've trained leaders in every country of the world, our opportunities are greater. So as the opportunities have increased, I've realized I need leaders on my team that can think bigger, better, and faster than me. We have the message. We have the influence. We need messengers to carry it out. We need vision casters. We need vision carriers. So my challenge today is perhaps your challenge as well. How clear is my dream? This is vision casting. How competent is my team? This is vision carrier. And I want you, in this next few minutes, I want you to answer that question. I want you to answer the question, how clear is my vision? How clear is my dream? I want you to answer the question, how competent is my team? You're going to have to answer a question today. Do you need to replace any of your teammates? Do you need to replace the people that can't go where you're going? Perhaps it will help you to rank your teammates. The ones that rank 7 to 9, empower them. The teammates that rank 5 to 7, I'm going to tell you, you're going to need to challenge them to get where you want to go. The teammates that would rank a 3 to 5, you need to figure out a way to replace them. Because as you pursue the law of influence, your dream has to be clear, your vision has to be repeatable, your team has to be able to not only repeat it, they have to have the competence to execute on the dream. Again, go to work with your facilitator, answer these questions, and begin discussing them in your group.
Okay, this one's a very, very powerful message by Mark especially, because if you remember what I said earlier about influence, the person in your organization that has the influence is truly providing the leadership. And so the last bit there, he talks about rating that team. I want to open it up for discussion. You know, what intrigued you about that? Thinking about influence, thinking about your team, that vision. The vision that you have, the vision carriers in our team, I just want to debrief and see what's going through your minds right now as you've taken some time to process that.
For me, I need to replace my entire team.
It's pretty amazing. So it's why you said that, Lori.
Well, life has taken them away. Just life events has lost their focus. They just aren't really wanting to be there anymore. And I know, I mean, it's not a bad thing. It's just life. But I have to replace. And I think that's kind of what stumped me because it was unexpected. And, you know, had my dreams. We had plans. And then they changed their life and their plans. And now I'm kind of hanging here going, what do I want to do? My business was successful beyond what I expected. And so it kind of threw me for a loop, which is kind of sad. Shouldn't have. But I don't know what I want to do with it. There's so many different avenues I can go. And I'm not sure. I need to figure that out. And I've known this for a while. I need to figure out what I want and then go after it. That would be my first step.
Exactly. The vision that Mark talks about is your vision clear? You know, how clear is that, you know, that dream that you have? Can you actually visualize it to a point where you know specifically that you want to go? You know, so that vision casting is a great exercise that we all have to do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What else? What else stuck out to you in terms of thinking about whether the clarity of your vision or the competency of your team? What stood out to you there?
For me, it was seeing kind of where we are at as a team and where everybody can improve, and also more of a self-evaluation for me, realizing, you know, hey, if, you know, we all have areas we need to improve from a leader standpoint, but as I need to work on, you know, raising my lid so that others' lid could be raised as well.
That's excellent, Jeremy. What do you guys think about when Mark talked about ranking the team and talking about empowering your 7 to 9s and challenging your 5 to 7s and replacing your 3 to 5s? Where would you say your team? I know Lori's already given us, but how would the dynamics of your team? Do you have more in the 7 to 9 range? Do you have more in the 5 to 7 range? Do you have more in the 3 to 5 range? What would the dynamics be for you?
I think 7 and 9, and what was the other the range below that?
5 to 7. With the
Yeah.
Challenging them.
Yeah. And I don't know. There was this one book that I got. I think it was Leaders Eat Last.
Simon.
Yeah, and he's talking about he doesn't believe in replacing employees. He's more of, you know, I guess helping them build up. I don't know exactly where I stand on that. I guess it all depends on where somebody's heart is, right? Because if they're a 3 to 4 and their heart's not in it, you know, then you're obviously going to want them to go pursue something that their heart's going to be in. So it's just interesting, the different kind of viewpoints on that.
Yeah, you bring up a very interesting point, Jeremy, because if you think about it, just like you said, you may have some of these 3 to 4s, but we go back to your vision, right? We go back to that dream casting. How big is your dream? If you've got people in your organization that aren't aligning themselves with your vision for the company, is that moving your company forward, or is it creating lower level lids in your organization where you might not even see?
Yeah, and then it ties into leadership too. Like, am I doing something that I need to work on as a leader to help bring, you know, those 3 and 4, 5 to 7s up to, you know, 7 and 9s or higher?
Yeah, there's one thing that I've always shared with, specifically when I was in the military, and I did this a lot with my soldiers. I always found opportunities that I knew if I could do something well, I knew if I told them what to do and how to do it, that there was no opportunity for growth. There's no opportunity for them to fail, nothing. All they would do is just do exactly what I say and nothing there. And if I truly wanted to build leaders and reciprocate the leadership that I was showing them, I wanted to grow that in my organization, I'd have to challenge them. I always have this rule of thumb. If there is somebody on my team that could do something at least 80% as good as I could, I would empower that person to do it. And you have to be willing to accept the fact that at some points in that journey, people are going to fail. And you as the leader are going to have to make a decision. Are you willing to accept that failure as feedback? Are you willing to mentor them? Are you willing to coach them on understanding what happens that didn't work out so well and what they can do to improve? If you're willing to do that, now you're raising the lid on your team members. And I can tell you that I use that strategy tremendously. And in many times, believe it or not, I'd say about 95% of the times, the solutions that my soldiers and my non-commissioned officers would come up with far surpass anything I could ever think of. And in many cases, they taught me a lot more. And I said, wow, I would never have thought to do it that way, but look at the result. And so, as I say this, I'm gonna share a little personal thing for me about the dream. I personally have a dream to impact 100,000 lives. And this year specifically, I'm saying, okay, how do I start? I work with people in different countries, but it has to start at home. And Jeremy and his wife Sella are on here, they're going to be part of my marketing team here very shortly. And they're the ones that are going to help me start this vision locally. And I recognize I can go on here and do things like this and do it. They can do it way better than I can. They could probably do it 150% better than me. And I says, you know what, Mike? That's what you have to do. If I want to raise the lid and I want to raise my influence, I have to empower people that I know have a skill set that far surpasses my own. And so that is why I've aligned myself with them. And I think this is a perfect application just to share with you all, because they do excellent work. And it's exciting to know that finally, I don't feel like I have to shoulder all this burden of trying to be everything to everyone. I actually have very skilled, highly qualified people that are going to go out there whose heart is aligned with mine. And I know that they're going to go out there and help deliver this message. So I just wanted to share that with you all. But any other thoughts about empowering a team, perhaps in business or even for yourself? And I know there's some of us on here that we are our own team. What does this look like for you? When you think about the law of influence, how does that apply to yourself? How are you with creating your own vision? How are you rating yourself on a scale from 1 to 10? Where would you sit? And I know that's a hard question to answer, but the transparency is the key here. Where would you sit on a scale from 1 to 5? Because you are an employee of your company. Where do you rate yourself?
I think I would rate myself pretty low because I have a need to control a lot of things. And if I feel like somebody can't do something as well as I can, then I'll just do it myself, even if I know that they can get it done, if I would just empower them to do it. So I would probably say I'm like a 2.
2. Okay, awesome. So if you think about that, so you say you're a 2. What would you do? Knowing what you know now, knowing about the law of influence, what could you do to raise that number? Because what could you do to either offset that with a high skill that you have, or what could you do to bring that up so that way you're at a different rung of the ladder?
I would say just educating the people around me to do the things that I know how to do, instead of feeling like I have to take it all on myself. Spending time showing people what I do and how it's done, and in that process, they might even have like a better solution or a better way to get it done that's even more efficient and more powerful than how I've been doing it.
Excellent. That's right there, you guys, is a great example of what I call humility through leadership. You know, Jeremy and his wife Selwa, they run this company together. And so here you have someone who is owner of an organization saying, you know what, I here's where I am and here's how I have to improve. If all of you can take that example right there and apply it, there's so much power that comes out of that. So thank you so much for your transparency there. Tiffany, I saw you come off mute. Did you want to add something?
Well, what she said. Yeah, because I think I'm right there, probably about a 2, and so, I mean, it's me, who's the team, but yeah, I also realize that when I coach people as well, I tend to have high expectations, and I'm realizing that maybe I should not have as high expectations for them to move forward because they're learning. I should be coaching and should be teaching, and so yeah, I'm just going to continue to plug in so I can get better at that.
Excellent. No, I love the fact that you guys are recognizing this is so powerful, because many leaders fail because they don't recognize this, and their ego actually gets in the way of allowing not only themselves to grow, but also the organization. So very good discussion here. I want to go ahead and go to our last law, the law of the big Mo. And this is where you can actually leverage. Sorry. Did you have something to say, Lori?
I apologize. I lost this for a little bit. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you now. You're good.
Okay, sorry. There's a lot of background noise.
No problem.
This is really making me face myself. My ability versus what I've been doing. I have the ability to lead, but the belief in myself has been lost.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't know how to rate myself.
If you had a duplicate in your company that was just like you, would you empower them? Would you challenge them, or would you replace them?
Right now, I would replace them with somebody who wants to do it.
Okay. So what I would encourage you to do then, Lori, is ask yourself, what is it that's making you say that? What is it that's making you come to that conclusion? Because there are factors that are contributing to that. So in some self-reflection, ask yourself, what is it that's making you come to that decision?
Because for the last, let's see, June, July, probably the last 6-7 months, I have not been leading well at all. I lost my heart for what I was doing. I couldn't see any purpose for going on. Because what really drives me is family and that teamwork. And when I lost that, I felt like I lost myself and I lost my dream. So yeah, I would probably have told myself that you need to find yourself before you come back, which is exactly where I'm finding myself right now. Having to figure it out, having to find that new vision. Where am I going? Because the dream has to change, it has to shift.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how to find that.
You're doing a great job right now by asking yourself these questions and really getting to the crux of the heart of what you want to do. So I'd encourage you, this is some great time as you reflect through here, after we're done today, just go back over some of those questions and really allow that and just draw it out. What does it look like? And you'd be surprised when you start putting pen to paper and start characterizing these things and cementing it, really inscribing it. You're going to see that some of the clarity that you're looking for will start to manifest itself.
Okay.
Yeah, excellent. But thanks again for sharing that. That's powerful. All right,
Sure.
so we're gonna go over our last law, the law of the big Mo here, which this right here, when you have a team that's operating on all cylinders, as you're gonna learn here, this is where you can truly have your dream, your vision come to reality in the quickest possible manner. So let's see what John says about the law of the big Mo.
We're going to now talk about law number 3, but before I mention it, as you're at the Lunch and Learn, we all need a best friend. And if you're a leader, trust me, the best friend that you're ever going to have is who I call Big Mo. That stands for momentum. And the law of the Big Mo basically says momentum is a leader's best friend. We're going to talk about why that is. Because you need momentum in your life. I need momentum in my life. Let's go back to a statement I shared with you in law number 1. Everything rises and falls on leadership. You see, that rising part of leadership is a result of momentum. Because when you have momentum, it is a lifter. It's a positive exaggerator. It's an encourager. It creates an environment for you and for your team to do your very best in. Momentum tremendously adds value to the leader's life. Now, not only does everything rise on leadership, but if the leadership is bad, to be honest with you, everything falls on leadership, which means now there is no momentum. And when you lack momentum, or things are going in a negative way, this lack of momentum just becomes a negative exaggerator in your leadership life and on the life of your team. So what I want you to understand about momentum is very simple. The better leader you are, the more momentum you create. You see, who's going to create the momentum? The leader is. Why? Because the leader is the one who sets the pace. The leader is the one who creates the environment that becomes conducive for your team to succeed. When I wrote the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, I wrote those laws to help you get better. And what happens when you get better, obviously, the people around you also get better. And one of the results is that you create momentum in your life. Now, when you create momentum in your life, you're going to discover that problems are solved much easier and quicker than without momentum. That's just an absolute fact. In fact, I learned a long time ago, managers try to fix problems and leaders try to create momentum. Let me just share with you how that works. A train going down a track 55 miles an hour, if there was a 5-foot thick concrete steel reinforced wall in front of that train, because it has momentum, would hit that barrier and smash it and just keep right on going down the track. Now, what happened? It was momentum that allowed the train to get through that big, almost insurmountable wall. Momentum allowed it to happen. I know that to be true because that same train, without moving, stopped dead on that track without any momentum at all. If you put a 1-inch block in front of the driving wheels of that train, it can't even get started. Same train, same track. What's the difference? With momentum, a 5-foot thick concrete steel reinforced wall cannot stop you. And without momentum, to be honest with you, a 1-inch block can keep you from going. So when people tell me that they have big problems, the question I have is, do you have big momentum? Because it takes big momentum to get through big problems. And if you don't have any momentum at all, a 1-inch problem in your leadership life will keep you from moving forward. The second reason that I love momentum and this incredible law and want to make sure that you understand it is because it'll just attract better people to you. Let's go back to the hand illustration. I used it in law of the lid, number 1, and I'm going to use it now in the law of momentum. Let's go back to the fact that this is my leadership lid, this is how well I lead, and I'm an average leader, so I'm a 5. Not only will my company under the law of the lid be a 4, 3, 2, or 1, but the people I attract to me will be less than what I am. So if I'm a 5 leader, I'm going to attract 4s, 3s, 2s, and 1s. Let me tell you what I'm not going to attract. I'm not going to attract 7s and 8s. There's never been in the history of mankind a 7 person want to follow a 5. They don't want to do that. So what's the answer? To teach you how to create momentum. Because once you create momentum, you attract people to your side. Trust me, people want to be in the winner's locker room. They don't want to be in the loser's locker room. The law of momentum will allow you to have that winning feeling, which will be conducive for you to continually win. I want you to have it. And again now, my friend, the man that I owe so much to because how he helps me, Mark Cole, is going to come and he's going to help you apply that law of momentum to your life so that your organization can be like a winning locker room.
Thank you, John. I greatly appreciate those kind words. But I remember the challenge John gave to me when he started his company. He had bought his intellectual property back that had been in decline with another company. And he looked at me and he looked at our team and he said, your ability to turn the momentum around is the acid test of your leadership. I've heard John say it often. The acid test of your leadership is to turn around momentum. And so we began a journey of determining what is it that's going to take a momentum that's in decline and increase that and make the momentum available to John that would add fuel to his vision. Well, today we stand here. He's sold 28 million books. We have leaders in every country of the world. In fact, we have executive directors, facilitators, training in over 150 countries. The momentum is high. The U-turn ability of a leader is something that I want to challenge you today. I want to ask you, where is your momentum? What are you doing to impact your momentum? In fact, in just a moment, the facilitator is going to come back and they're going to challenge you with 2 questions. The first question is, what is the status of your momentum? On a scale of 1 to 10. You see, I believe that every leader needs to know where the momentum is in their organization. I also believe every leader needs to know, is your momentum increasing or decreasing? If you look over the last 3 months, is your momentum on the rise or is it in decline? The second question I'm going to ask you is, what is the one thing you need to focus on to change the momentum in your organization? You're going to have to identify your momentum makers. Who are your momentum takers? Who are the people that's helping you and who are the people that's hurting you? John's just taught us you cannot accomplish the vision. The vision may be great, the team may be great, but without the law of the mo, it will be like that train trying to get started. Momentum is a difference maker. Now I'm getting ready to turn you over for the final time to our facilitator. This John Maxwell team executive director has been trained by John. They've sat under John. We've mentored them. And they are empowered to take you not only to answer these 2 questions and the questions you've already answered, but they're able to take you to the next depth of application that will make a difference in your momentum.
Okay, so Mark made this very simple. So we're going to jump right to the questions. Where is your momentum in your organization or in your life?
I actually feel like currently we're in a good place of where we're gaining momentum. I know for me, towards the end of last year, my momentum was kind of stagnant, and I kind of when I hear momentum, I tie that into with consistency, and you know, because if you're not being consistent, you don't have any momentum. And but I feel like we're in a good spot now, in that we're building up our momentum currently, and I just want that to stay and be consistent. And I think also your circle of who you associate yourself with. Joining BNI was a huge help. Being a part of a group of people who are just as hungry as you who have that momentum, and you just kind of feed off of their momentum and that drive as well.
That's awesome, Jeremy. So you've got a great opportunity with the momentum rising, which is good. Do you have an inventory of your momentum makers and your momentum takers? You know, that Mark said, the people who are helping to contribute to that momentum, or ones who are taking away from it. Do you have an inventory of who those people are?
Yes.
Your job now is to figure out what you need to do with those momentum makers. And I think you can take the first two laws we talked about and figure out creative ways to do it. And you need to figure out what you're going to do with the momentum takers, because just like John said, a 1-inch block stops that train from moving. You've got to figure out what you're going to do with them. And what's that one thing? I mean, what's the one thing that you guys are going to do as a team to keep that momentum going, moving forward? Awesome. All right. Anyone else? Anyone else? What are you in a momentum increase or decrease at the present moment? Go ahead, Tiffany.
At the present moment, I'm in a momentum increase. I was in a very big momentum decrease and was getting really frustrated prior to the beginning of the year. I went to an event, and so it really gave me a swift kick to get my momentum back. And now I have my fire back. And I had to do a really hard look in the mirror at myself, but also who I was allowing to surround me. And so I actually had to get rid of a lot of people. What I mean is I had to make a conscious decision to stop surrounding myself with people who were that 1-inch block. And because of that, I'm finding that my momentum is going. I picture a train going uphill, and you can't carry, I don't mean to call them junk, but in quotations, you can't carry a junk trunk with you. It's just going to weigh you down. So until you release that lever and let that go, you won't gain momentum. You're just going to go sliding back down the hill. So that's where my momentum's at.
Excellent. So you've decided to remove the momentum takers, and all of a sudden, look at that, you're continuing to go. So that's fantastic. Yeah. And like I told Jeremy, what you have to figure out now is, what are you going to do to continue to fuel that momentum that you have right now to keep going in the direction that you want to go? You have to answer that question. And again, I don't know, for time's purposes, we probably won't be able to answer it in this one particular opportunity, but it's definitely a good reflection question. So anyone else want to share where they're, if they're in a momentum incline or decline? Go ahead, Jeremy.
I had one more thing to add, just as far as your momentum takers. Once you're gaining momentum, that block is not going to stop you if it gets in your way. It's only when you slow down your momentum and kind of like, oh, there's something in my way, and you start slowing your momentum, that's going to have effect on you. So I just thought of that. I think a good place to be is just to continue that momentum and don't let that momentum be taken away from the takers.
That's powerful. Now you hit the nail on the head, brother. That's right. You see something in the road that could be a potential roadblock if you don't focus on it, right? Because what you feed is going to flourish. And if you focus on that, you're right. You're going to slow down to address it and lose all that. Because it takes a while to build momentum, and it takes a split second to stop it. And if you ever think about this, I encourage you to think about the teams. If you ever see, the same college football teams tend to have the top 10 teams in the nation. It seems to be the same names over time. Why? John says they're not. Have you ever seen a 7 want to go to a 5, follow a 5? No. You've got high quality coaches, you've got high quality performers, and that's who people want to be with. And so when you envision yourself and your companies, how do you make yourself that high performance team that people say, you know what, I want to be a part of Fleet Consulting, or I want to be part of Tiffany's online virtual assistant, or I want to be part of Lori's mobile pretzel business. These are different things that you have to ask yourself. What is it that's going to make other people want to be a part of that team? And are those people the ones that are going to help push that lid up or drop it down? So I'm gonna end us with one final video, and I know we've gone over slightly, but I've been asked to share this by John and Mark in terms of the next step. If you guys have found this helpful, here's what really the next step could potentially look like for you in your organization. So I'm going to share this final message now.
I want to thank you so much for just allowing Mark and me to share with you and let you apply 3 laws of leadership to your life. I'm thinking right now, as we're just kind of wrapping up our time together, of a significant moment in my life where over a breakfast, I had a man ask me a question, what my plan for personal growth was in my own life. And I didn't have one. That was an amazing day for me because he helped me understand that if I was going to get better as a leader, if I was going to grow, I was going to have to be intentional. I was going to have a plan. I can still remember a few months later literally finding a plan for leadership growth and spending $799, and that was clear back in, my goodness, 1972, on that plan that helped me get started developing myself. What I didn't know then, but I do know now that I want to share with you is that was a day that I invested in me. And I think each one of you want to consider this investment in you. In fact, to be honest with you, if you wouldn't invest in yourself, if you wouldn't bet in yourself, why should anyone else invest in you or bet on you? You see, the first person who should step forward and say, I want to get better and I'm willing to do something about it is me. That's what I did, and that helped me get started in my personal growth journey. And Mark, I know that you have something to share with them at this moment that will help them get started on that same journey.
Yeah, one of the things that we wanted to do is after this lunch and learn, we wanted to give you an opportunity to interact with our executive director. The person that has been facilitating with you, they are prepared to take you on a 10-week journey. We call it a mastermind group. It's an opportunity for 10 weeks for you to dig into the 21 laws of leadership, to grow yourself, to develop yourself, but also to grow your leadership aptitude, to increase your ability to develop your team, to develop yourself. And so, like John, you have an opportunity right now to connect with the executive director and talk to them about being a part of this limited group in this mastermind program. John and I will meet you every week, just like we have in this Lunch and Learn. John will do some teaching on the lesson, I'll do some application, and we will give you an opportunity at the end of 10 weeks to see a marked difference in your leadership journey.
We sure are, Mark, and we will really look forward to teaching and applying each one of the laws of leadership into your life. I grew personally for about 5 years, and by this time I'm also developing a team. But I made a real mistake, and I want to tell you about it because I kind of caught it a little too late. I was a little slow, and I don't want you to be as slow as I am, that's for sure. I would go and do personal growth and personal leadership like we've just shared that you can do in this mastermind. And then I would go back to my group and I would share with them what I was learning. And it took some, and some of them that didn't grab hold of it. And I realized it was basically hit and miss. But what I realized more than anything else is they didn't experience what I experienced. And I couldn't take that experience back and share it with them until they could fully embrace it. And one day, finally, I woke up and I said, I'm going to bring my team to this kind of an event. I'm not only going to expose myself for personal growth, I'm going to expose my team members. So guess what? We can learn together, talk together, discuss together, and grow together. And when I made that decision, the success of my organizations just began to skyrocket because now I had allies. I had people on my side. I wasn't having to come back and tell the story and hope they bought into the story or the principles. They were with me. And that, Mark, made a huge difference of me taking them with me and us being exposed to these incredible laws and principles together.
Yeah, and so as you know, John, for several years, other organizations, other company leaders, I mean CEOs of some of the top companies in the entire world, global Fortune 500 companies, began to approach you saying, how can we take this leadership and how can we develop our team? John, you've done it, you're doing it with your team. How can we do that with 21 laws? And so some time ago, we developed a 2-day workshop. Now this workshop has been used in literally countries around the world. in small companies, large companies, engaging their people on living out the laws of the 21 laws. And as we developed this program, this 2-day workshop, we put in experiences, we put in discussion groups, we put in elements that would allow you through experiential learning to experience scenarios, case studies that would drive behavior into your team that would help you live out the laws of leadership. We've made that a program available through our executive directors. This executive director is able to take you on a 2-day journey, you and your team. And I want to challenge you. You're developing yourself through masterminds. I want to challenge you to bring you, your team, into a 2-day workshop and allow our executive director, through experiential learning, help you to begin to apply leadership and John's laws of leadership into your program, into your vision, into your company, with your team. John, that's one of the things we wanted to do for this Lunch and Learn group.
Absolutely, and we're so excited that you're with us. I hope already you've gotten some stuff that you can take home that add value to you. But the workshop and the mastermind that we've talked about, that's an investment in you, and well, that workshop, that's an investment in your team. By the way, it's not an expense. I've had a lot of expensive things and I've had a lot of expenses, and trust me, once you've paid it out, it's gone. This is an investment that will return to you multitudes and multitudes and compound more than you can ever imagine. Those 2 thoughts I shared with you and Mark applied, those 2 thoughts, as I look back now, investing in me and investing in my team has been exactly what brought me to where I am today in my life. And Mark and I want more than anything else for you is for your success in the area of leadership. And we have provided 2 tools that can help you get there. So let's get together and let's go do it. And obviously the facilitator is going to just tell you how you can enroll and sign up yourself and sign up your team, and let's get better. And trust me, a year from now, you're hardly going to recognize yourself because you've been on a growth journey. And that's what we want for you.
All right. So first of all, I just want to say thank you guys for joining me today. I know taking some time out of your day in the middle of the day is a lot for some people, and you all made a strong commitment in terms of time to come here. And I thank you very much. This is something I'm extremely passionate about, and I love sharing it. So my hope and prayer is that today you've gotten some laws, and the law of the lid, the law of influence, and the law of Big Mo that have truly caused you to think about what needs to change in your life, and also what tweaks need to happen in your organizations to do it. And so, at this point, there's always 3 types of people. The first person is the person that says, Mike, this is great. I absolutely loved it. I feel pretty confident where my leadership is. I feel pretty confident where I am. And this is probably where our journey stops. And I just want to say thank you so much, because it does take a lot to put yourself out there. You guys gave me a chance, and I hope that I was able to serve you in a capacity, and anything that I can do in the future to help you is absolutely great. The second type of person says, it sounds pretty intriguing. It'd be nice to go on a longer journey to sort of explore all 21 of these laws, perhaps with a group of people, perhaps with some of my team, maybe some other people that are in my inner circle that are there, but I don't know if that time commitment would be long enough. I don't know if it's too much or too long, the time commitment. So I say, totally understand that. There is actually a 4-week mastermind group for those of you who sort of want to test the waters and see if this is really for you. And if you've got value out of this, hopefully you've gotten value out of the other thing. But then there's a number one person, the person that says, Mike, this is something that I know I need to grow in. It's something that I know is a powerful tool that can take me. I've got this momentum. I really want to grow. And so if that's you, what I'm offering now is a 10-week mastermind group. I typically do masterminds 4 times a year. And so the irrefutable laws of leadership are something that's personally helped me a lot in my journey. I've had other clients that have taken this into their organizations and just done such a profound job. So whether it's you on your personal journey or it's you and a team, I would absolutely love to have you guys a part of it. So I'm going to share with you 2 things that will show you. I'm going to show you the 4-week mastermind and what it looks like, and then I'll show you the 10-week mastermind. And if either one of these are something you decide you want to do, we are going to kick this off the last week of February. It is going to be on either February the 26th, February 27th or March 1st. It's going to be in that last week on a Tuesday or a Thursday, depending on how many people are enrolled. We only have a limited amount of seating. There's only room for 12 people that can be in here. So if this is something that you want and you need, here's what you can do. You guys know the website f3performancegroup.com. So if you go on there and you go under Masterminds, you'd go ahead and you would select the 4-week Mastermind 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. What you'll get is you'll get a copy of the book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. You'll get a printed out mastermind guide that you can take with you every single week, where you can actually write notes and whatnot. And you actually get a copy of these recordings each week. So in the event that you can't make a night, you can't come one night, you'll actually have a copy to take with you on that. So that's the 4-week journey. If you say, I want to do something a little bit more than that, I want to take the full 10-week journey and truly impact my level of influence, this is the 10-week mastermind journey, where you get everything that's the same. The only difference is that we're going to get a very thorough, in-depth look at each one of these laws, and you'll be able to apply them. And what comes out of these groups, as you saw here, is the experiential learning, but also the accountability. The biggest piece that we stress here is after each week you learn some laws, your job is to go out there and mess it up. Your job is to go out there and come back ready to prepare and ready to share what you did based on what you learned and what you've applied, and sharing the testimonials and whatnot. So those are the 2 programs that we have coming up in the next 3 weeks. So again, if you decide to do this, you can just go ahead and register on the site. You'll get your contents and package within a week. And if that's not something you do and our journey stops here, that's more than fine. But again, guys, thank you so much for taking time out of your day today. I greatly appreciate it. And again, if you have any questions at any time, feel free to contact me. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for participating. I hope that you learned something valuable, and I hope that our paths cross again in the near future. So God bless you guys. Take care. Have a great afternoon. Thanks.